Joining us now is OjyOkpe, with stories trending around the world. Hello, Janet.
Good morning. Just make it louder.
No, this one I'm trying to imitate a friend of mine.
What did your friend
on the
say?
phone this morning was trying to call your name.
No, just telling me he can't try. No matter how hard he tries. Good morning, Ayo. How are you this morning?
I'm very well,
Perfect.
thanks. And you?
Good. Good morning, Rufai.
Good morning, Oji. But you and Ayo got International Women's Day goodies yesterday.
But of
so
course.
let's bring all these matters forward. So please, where is our own share of the International
Don't worry.
Day?
On International Men's Day, we'll share it. Why not? Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Well, let's begin what's trending by taking reactions trailing the approval granted by the Court of Appeal in Abuja to the Independent National Electoral Commission to reconfigure the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System for the governorship and State House of Assembly elections. The appeal court based its decision on the grounds that the information on the BVAS will be uploaded into the back-end server, which cannot be tampered with, following speculations by some IT experts who have said that reconfiguring the BVAS will tamper with evidence and compromise pending litigations by aggrieved presidential candidates. Well, this first reaction is from human rights lawyer and activist Inibehe Effiong. Well, he wrote, "The reason for the controversy over the reconfiguration of BVAS is that INEC, as an institution, has very little credibility. This is about the lack of trust in INEC. If INEC were a credible institution, no one would bother about the possibility of any sort of evidence tampering." While Blacksmith wrote, "The court should have gone into detail to know how INEC wants to reconfigure the BVAS and ask INEC to share information about their reconfiguration, including what kind of data in the BVAS will be affected. INEC would tamper useful evidence during this reconfiguration." While Matty wrote, "Why would INEC need to reconfigure BVAS? Are they adding new voters to BVAS? According to my knowledge, BVAS have been preloaded with the voter register for each polling unit. We cannot trust people who failed to upload presidential result." Well, the last tweet, there goes. INEC does not need to reconfigure the BVAS devices. They are Android devices. Data can be saved on the device and still used this Saturday. Don't we have multiple pictures, documents, videos, etc. on our phones? Do you need to reconfigure your phone each time you take a new photo? Ayo, I guess that question is quite valid as well, but I believe that you had, a guest earlier who actually used to work with INEC and said that the BVAS would need to be reconfigured because they have to recalibrate it with the dates and the polling units and all of that. But can you really blame Nigerians? I was looking through all the tweets this morning, and this is the exact sentiment. This is the rhetoric out there. They do not trust the institution. What's your take on this, really quickly?
Yes, very, very, very interesting. Now, the first thing is that the first person we had this morning, the Deputy Dean of Postgraduate Studies at Bayes University, had actually put it very clearly that the reason why you have questions like this has been raised following the ruling by the appeal court yesterday is due to a lack of credibility and deficit of trust, especially because of the antecedents of INEC. So when they say one thing, unfortunately, they haven't been able to live up to their words or their promises. Hence, when they say what should be a normal procedure or process is being brought under microscopic investigations and Nigerians are not having it. So the conversation is around the fact that the information and evidence that could be used by parties who are before the courts to challenge the results of the presidential elections would be tampered with. I spoke to a few technical experts just to have an idea as to what does reconfiguration, what does it entail, and then is it possible, from what the courts had said, that they're going to save up they're going to back up information on BVAS currently to their server and cloud so that they can't tamper with it. As I said, there's no 100% foolproof, fault-proof device. As long as it's technology, there are hackers who can attempt to break the security apparatus of the cloud or the servers. Now, the onus is on INEC in this instance to ensure that their security architecture is strong enough to withstand any kind of manipulation, tampering. In fact, people are not even as concerned about the hackers as they are as to internal manipulations and tampering of evidence. What we can hold on to from the ruling yesterday is that candidates have been said that they can ask for a certified true copy of information on BVAS. So that's one of the things that they were looking at. And also that it would be backed up and it would not be tampered with. Hopefully, this will answer the questions for many Nigerians. However, there's still that question of trust, there's still that question of credibility, there's still that question of competence on the part of INEC, and there's still that question around complicity with hanky-panky, if I could put it that way, with dealing with the information on BVAS. That's the challenge.
Credibility, competence. Dr. Abati, that other Twitter user alluded to the fact that if INEC should just, tell us exactly what it is that they are going to do, that would really probably help to instill trust in the people of Nigeria at this particular moment.
Well, the concern that has been raised by the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room speaks directly to that second tweet that you are talking about. And what the Situation Room is saying is that, look, there should be clarity as to what reconfiguration means. The reconfiguration that INEC is asking for, does it mean that INEC is going to erase data? Because there should be a back end, there should be a storage of data at the back end that will not require tampering with the BVAS or with IREF, so that if in the future people need access to the same data, it will not be that INEC has said, oh, we were reconfiguring and we have erased it. But INEC defends itself and said, oh, we did reconfiguration with card readers, smart card readers. And that is why it is important that the emphasis should be on accountability. The emphasis should be on a proper clarification of what that reconfiguration represents. And that is why it should not be surprising that the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal refused to establish a linkage between reconfiguration and the March 11 elections, because it was not the tribunal that postponed the elections scheduled for this weekend. It was INEC that went back to hold meetings and then said, well, the ruling is too close. Effectively, they have just 48 hours from the time the ruling was given, so they won't be able to do the reconfiguration. And that is why they need to explain what that reconfiguration is all about. IT experts, people in the technological space, say that there's no need for any reconfiguration. And that's why you had that tweet also talking about the tablet being an Android device. Absolutely. And that we don't need to reconfigure our phones each time we need data from it. You know, the way you have set your phone, you can always get data. You can even hide your data in the clouds. Absolutely. Where you can access it. The third point is, why should anybody trust INEC? The same INEC that promises and fails. So what INEC has done with this general election is a promise and fail operation, failing the people of Nigeria. And so you cannot blame the people of Nigeria if they say they do not trust INEC. But what is even worse is that the credibility of INEC as an institution has been called into question. The credibility of its principal officers has been called into question. And I've raised the point elsewhere in an essay that, look, INEC is a graveyard of reputations. We have had INEC chairmen in the past who had to go and hide immediately they finish the assignment. With what INEC is going through, I don't know whether Professor Yakubu Mahmood will still be able to stand tall in decent company after this is assignment, the end of which we do not know yet, the nature of which is overshadowed by uncertainty, by lack of confidence, by incompetence, by, we hope we don't get to that point, confusion.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you make of confusion at this point? Because I feel like this is where we are.
I think it was Fela Kuti that talked about confusion in many of his songs. And he famously used the word, na double wahala for daddy body, and the owner for daddy body, na double wahala for daddy body. And that's where we are today. Technology is supposed to be easy. But INEC, please underline my words, has made technology phantasmagorically nebulous. That's what INEC has done. And that's why a lot of people can't trust them. And please, in going forward, I think our lords on the bench also should be given prerequisite technological trainings, because they are going to deal with a lot of technology on the bench, especially with these elections. Our lords should be given technological trainings, because there are so many things that when you look at judgments like this, they need to understand about technology. Oji, we can all take our phones and Google that. Can you lose data when you even send something to the cloud? This is the response. In the cloud, I know already, but I just want in the cloud, the risk of data loss exists.
Wow.
So even when you say you put something in the cloud, you can lose data. And that's why I say, see, technology is very simple, but INEC has made it phantasmagorically nebulous. Even when you send something to the cloud, the risk of data loss does exist. This is the same INEC that we have seen the antecedents. And that's why a lot of people don't trust the so-called certified true copies. Because the upload timeline was different, so different informations were uploaded. As regards the Oshu case, which is also the locus classical, yeah, the case is still in court, but that's still a reference case. This is the same INEC that couldn't even, show us the buoyancy of its server during election day, telling us we had a technical glitch that they've not been able to tell us what happened for the technical glitch today.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
This is the same INEC that has not been able to give us the steps and processes of what's involved in the configuration. And that's why the integrity of INEC is suspect.
Yeah.
So as regards INEC claiming that we will back up in the cloud, I've been able to prove to you beyond reasonable doubt that even when you back up with the cloud, you can still lose in situ data. I rest my case.
Thank you for that point, Rufai. We'll take another story. Yoruba socio-political group Afenifere on Wednesday endorsed Labour Party gubernatorial candidate Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour in the wake of accusations stemming from certain quarters alleging that he is not a true Lagosian. The leader of the group in Lagos State, Chukwu Shonibare, while speaking at the press conference, stated that the gubernatorial election is a contest of ideas and not a contest between people of Southeast extraction and Yoruba people in the state. He called on Lagosians to ignore provocative posts on social media because many are aimed at fanning the embers of disunity among peace-loving residents and intended to pitch Yorubas against Igbos. Shonibare further urged the people of Lagos to vote for Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour, affirming that he is a true Lagosian whose family ancestry and pivotal contribution to the affairs of Lagos State dates back 5 generations. Well, in the same vein, a video of Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour's sister, Titilola Vivour Adeniyi, a legal practitioner who has served in various capacities in Lagos State government, sharing the work that she has done as the Executive Secretary of Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team, has made the rounds on social media. Let's take a look.
My name is Titilola Vivour Adeniyi. I'm privileged to serve as the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, also referred to as DSVA. DSVA is the first of its kind, the first agency in Nigeria that is devoted to issues that pertain to sexual and gender-based violence. Under Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's administration, we've been able to provide services to over 10,000 survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Survivors have been able to access free healthcare, access free legal services, and access justice. Indeed, the letters of the law have come alive, because under this administration, we've secured over 70 convictions, ranging from life imprisonment to 60 years. Lagos State government has declared zero tolerance for all forms of sexual and gender-based violence, and this can only be achieved with your support. It's for this reason that I stand with Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu in ensuring Lagos State is free from all forms of sexual and gender-based violence.
Well, apparently it's Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour's birthday as well. Dr. Abati, what is your take on both stories?
Well, okay, first, Afenifere, right? Afenifere has endorsed Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour, and that's been consistent. Afenifere, the group led by Chief Ayo Adebanjo, and in Lagos State by Chief Shukpo Shonibare. I know, the Afenifere will not want to hear that a group is led by one person, another group is led by another person. But that group, two principal figures in that group that I have identified, they are pro-Labour Party. And they've been consistent in supporting Peter Obi and also now in supporting Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour. In the statement issued by Chief Shukpo Shonibare, he made a point that this is a contest in Lagos State of ideas. And that this is about people who want change in Lagos State. So it's important that he made that point about ideas, about people who want change, about people having the freedom to make their choice. So if Afenifere says, we're supporting Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour, yes, you can understand where they're coming from. Because they're talking about equity, they're talking about, power rotation and all of that. So they're consistent in supporting the Labour Party. However, the other thing to note here is that Chief Shonibare, in his statement, alluded to this ethnic game that is being played in Lagos State, and said that Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour comes from an illustrious Lagos State Yoruba family that dates back to about 5 generations, which is true. The Rhodes Vivour family, they fought in the war, the First World War. They have been judges, one generation to another, from son to grandfather to great-grandchildren in that family. And so when people raise the question that Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour is not from Lagos, you see Afenifere now backing him up. I've seen videos where he was being referred to as Chinedu, and they say, oh, because he has a little percentage of Igbo blood, he's an Igbo man. Meanwhile, in the Southeast, in one state, there's a Yoruba man who is currently running for governorship, So, and I've made a point about this, that people don't argue when it is a bedroom situation. But when the product comes out, they will remember the ethnicity of the mother. When they were going to, with due respect, enthrone a new Olu of Warri, the argument at that time was still about the maternal extraction of the Olu of Warri, who is on the throne now. They said his mother was from Abeokuta, and that an Abeokuta woman cannot give them a king in a Were kingdom. But the man is there. The fact that his mom is Yoruba has not caused any problem. He's been providing leadership. If you go back in history, Yorubas like to quote Shango, one of those gods that Yorubas worship. Shango's mother was from Nupe, was a Nupe woman. They call him Shango Elempe. The ones that are traditional worshippers, they go there to worship Shango, the traditional religion worshippers. They don't say, don't worship Shango because Shango's mother is from Nupe land. So we find these contradictions, and even in contemporary times, some of these obas that you have in Yoruba land, they are from their mother's line. Nobody complains that your mother is from somewhere, but now governorship. You are saying, oh, because the mother is Igbo, because he bears Chinedu, and so you have Afenifere backing him up. That nobody should play the politics of ethnicity. And yesterday, the governor of Lagos State was on this program.
Yes. And
he said, well, people are emotional, but Lagos is a place for all. And he made that point. But I've seen, some people still insisting this is Lagos for Yorubas. The Igbos want to come and take over Lagos. How? As to the second tape you played, Rhodes Vivour's sister, Gbadebo's sister, well, she works for the Lagos State government. The work that she's doing is an interesting one, useful one, Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Authority. And in that video, where she wasn't campaigning for the brother, she was telling us about the work, the great work that they are doing in that domestic violence and sexual violence agency, which is something that everybody talks about, to protect families, to protect individuals from violence. And Lagos State is one of those states that has domesticated the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which is something that is commendable. But as an individual, Ms. Rhodes Vivour has her own choice. She can support whoever she wants, but she's not talking politics. But even if she's talking politics, that's fine.
Yes.
We have seen families where the father will go with one party, the son will go with one party. Isn't that the famous case? Was it the Ikoli family or the Ikoku family? Where you had the members belonging to two different political affiliations. Yeah. And then, of course, we have seen husbands and wives belonging to different political parties. And people raise questions, how do you people do it at home? But of course, the standard response is that when they enter the bedroom, they leave politics at the door and continue with family business. Yes. So, you know, that is not an issue. Everybody has the right to choose. Yes. By the way, you say he's 40 today. Yes. Well, congratulations to him.
Happy birthday to Gbadebo. But I think, you know, Ayo, it's quite refreshing to see Titilayo in that video coming, you know, in the wake of International Women's Day, and the work that she's doing is so important. I love the fact that, you know, she had talked about how many convictions that they've had through the whole process, through the time she's been working with the Lagos state government. Another thing that was quite instructive in Shoni Bare's statement was the fact that, you know, he talked about the unity in Lagos. He talked about the fact that, you know, we should try to understand that even the fact that Peter Obi won Lagos and that Tinubu won in certain parts of the southeast should show the beauty of democracy, and we should stop all this ethnic divide.
Absolutely. I'm very glad that the Afenifere, at least that faction, has come out to speak against any kind of ethnic profiling when it comes to the elections. I think that when leaders of groups like this come out to make a strong statement against what is happening in Lagos, which is quite shameful and disgraceful in terms of this ethnic war, as it were, then it passes on a very strong message. And that's why it was important when I asked the governor of Lagos State as to him speaking about it yesterday when he was on the show, because we need principal officers like that to strongly condemn what is going on. It's also ironic that whilst he was here, there were reports of burning of, you know, some ethnic groups' shops in Olodi Apapa. Very unfortunate. I know I'll speak about that in detail later, but just to show you how tense and how bad the situation has become. So in terms of just emphasizing the importance of one Nigeria and the fact that we have the right and freedom and the beauty of living together as one, irrespective of the state that you choose to live. Yes, there are certain technicalities around that, but it is important to continue to consistently pass that message of unity and oneness. And so I'm glad that they've done that. I mean, irrespective of its politics of who they decide to back or support, it's just speaking deliberately to that. And I hope that other leaders and political chieftains will open up their mouths and speak up. It's important. We will hear their silences really loudly at this point when they are not saying anything and are riding on the waves of these ethnic divides and people destroying lifestyles and just properties and livelihoods of people. Very important. Now, with regards to Mrs. Titilola Vivour Adeniyi, I have watched her very closely since she was executive secretary of, at the time it was DSVRT, and then when it passed into law by the State House of Assembly, became the agency DSVA, and the incredible work they've done under the Lagos State Administration. If you're going to give kudos on one thing that the Governor Sanwo-Olu administration has done very well, it is in this area. They have convicted. There are famous cases. We remember the case of the Chrisland supervisor and a few minors. We know the sexual offenders register that's been published. They have made huge strides in regards to sexual offense and domestic violence. Their response team is one to be commended. Therefore, we must give honor to whom honor is due, and it's led by Mrs. Lola Vivour Adeniyi. Now, when her brother came on to contest against her principal, it was people, of course, were watching closely to see who she was going to go with. Who was she going to support? Would she go along family lines and loyalty, or would she stick with her boss? As at December 2022, she featured very prominently in one of the rallies that Governor Sanwo-Olu had done. So she wasn't mincing words in who she was standing or supporting in this area. As Dr. Bati mentioned, at the end of the day, blood is thicker than water. You can decide to choose an opposite political stance in terms of your support, but it doesn't change the fact that people should respect whoever anyone wants to support. And let me speak to the fact, Oji, of what has been going on in terms of this attack and bullying based on whom you decide to stand up to support. If siblings can choose to agree to disagree, in quotes in this case, by standing and choosing whom they want to support or back, then we should, as Nigerians, as Lagosians, as wherever you live in Nigeria, be willing to accept that this is the beauty of democracy. People can choose and decide to support whom they want to support based on their what they are leaning towards. It can be for different reasons. Some is competence, some is what is self-serving. But we must respect the choices of others without intimidation, without bullying, and respecting that people have choices. I think that the model representation of this, and I hope that it would end well, not just for them as individuals, but even for their family as a whole. But I think it's really excellent that they're able to come out boldly. I must say, finally, that in the past, Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour always celebrated the work of his sister. So you can look at his previous posts. So you'd see that at least there's a close relationship there in terms of him being proud of the work she's done with the Lagos state government. And so it's important to know that they had a great relationship, and I hope the relationship will be sustained despite differing political opinions.
Beautiful. Well, Rufai, like Ayo said, this conversation is coming as an auto parts market in the Apapa area of Lagos State got burnt to the ground by alleged thugs.
This is happening live. Today, Wednesday, 8th March 2023. This is happening live. Akere Market, Olodi Apapa, Lagos. Burnt down completely. And the security man was killed while he was begging them not to burn the market. What have these men do to them? What have these men done? They are not politicians. They are not getting from politicians. Nobody even remember them. Look at how Akere Market is. Look at the streets of Akere. Very dilapidated. Nobody cares. No one knows. They are here just managing, trying to feed their family, trying to make ends meet.
Can you imagine what happened there? I mean, we'll have, I believe Gbadebo was one of the first people to visit that incident yesterday. Horrible, horrible, condemnable.
Okay.
But we'll have him speak after you speak.
So, real quickly, I think the reason for all this problem in the first place goes back to our education and the fact that they are taking history off the schools. And it was a deliberate attempt because they foresaw a day where we'll have to ask questions about our identity. And they wanted to sell false narrative towards the hoodwinkers. And that's why they deliberately took history out of the curriculum before they brought it back recently. That's where all the problem starts from. And that's why even with the antecedent history of Lagos, when we state it, people still get political. But the history is there. Because you need to teach a lot of people the truth. And you see this ethnic bickering. We are all infused together. We are one nation. We carry one passport and we don't need it because of political gains. I'm happy Dr. Abati talked about the Ikokus. In case you don't know, Alvan is on the 10 naira notes. Alvan, great Nigerian educationist, ran against his son, Samuel Ikoku. And his son, 36-year-old, beat his father in an election for the Eastern Parliament. Same family, different political views. Alvan Ikoku today adorns the 10 naira notes. I bet most Nigerians are just getting aware of that because we don't teach history. Just like we forget in a hurry that once people come together and they have lived in a place for a while, they become assimilated into that place. And this idea of that, oh, we own the place, others should go away. Let us ask them, are they even truly sensible about that argument? Because everybody become one as long as they're Nigerians. And where people come from doesn't matter. It's about the impact and the role of what they can do. Today, the mayor of London is a Pakistani or Indian heritage. The Prime Minister of UK is that. When are we going to leave all of this bigotry and sentiments we normally do? And the shocking thing is that the same people that shout that some people are not from Lagos, let's ask them where are they from. I keep asking that question. Where are they from? let's ask them. We have seen with clear evidence how a senator left Lagos and went to run in his own home state, Ogun State. Did anybody tell that senator when he was representing Lagos that he was not from Lagos?
Let me ask him. Fine.
The governor of Osun State, his mother is Igbo, speaks Igbo fluently. The father married to an Igbo woman. Does it make him less of a Nigerian? As long as the people want you, they want you. So that's why we should stop all of this embers of war we're finding. And that's why we deliberately asked the governor here to condemn such thing, and he did.
Yes, it was very good.
And please, that should be a watchword for all that's fanning these embers of war. Because all of this narrative started, I heard boldly, after the APC lost Lagos. In fact, aspersions were casted at the president-elect, saying that he was the one that allowed the Igbos now take positions in government. We heard these narratives.
I heard that.
Once APC lost Lagos, this sentiment started. And aspersions were casted at President-elect Bola Tinubu. And let me tell you something. I salute Bola Tinubu for the inclusion of putting people from different race into government in Lagos. I clap for him and I applaud him for that. I don't mince words. I don't do sentiments. I don't do hanky-panky.
Right.
Because that was where the sentiment started from. And please, people should be allowed to make their choices. Because I also saw somebody representing the APC posting that we should coerce all civil servants that they must vote for a certain party. You see, it is rhetorics like that that destroy and divide society. Because somebody is a civil servant, does it mean he must vote for the incumbent government? If you are saying that, that means human beings are robots. So does it mean because God created us, we must all think like God wants us to think? Even God is democratic enough to allow us to be able to think and choose who we want. And he doesn't judge us. So why do we do all of this? And please, for all of the hoodlums going to burn markets, please remember, the Yorubas have a saying, what it means that if you throw a stone into the market, it will come back to you. You think you're trying to harm people by burning their markets and killing the innocent security guard?
Unacceptable.
It will come back to haunt you, and that's why we must refrain from evil and speak against evil.
All right, let's...
If we truly want to build a society,
Sure.
And kudos to the person that visited them. Also kudos to Governor Sanwo-Olu for saying he's going to investigate.
Absolutely.
Let's call a spade a spade. We need to build a society. Bigotry cannot take us anywhere. We will die before we know it.
Yeah, let's listen to what the Labour Party gubernatorial candidate Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour had to say when he visited the market.
Lagos State is welcoming to everybody. Nobody has a right to be intimidating anybody in Lagos State. And we are here to stand with the people of this market. And we are going to support them. And as governor of Lagos, I'm going to rebuild this market.
Dr. Abati, over to you. What do you make of this whole incident?
He fired Olodi Apapa. Of course, it's condemnable in the extreme. 6 a.m. in the morning. A security man, 65-year-old, was on duty. 6 masked gunmen arrived. They wanted to burn down the spare parts market. The man tried to appeal to them. They killed him. The man lost his life for nothing. And then they set the place ablaze. Now, what is the subtext? The subtext is that spare parts market in Olodi Apapa is dominated by Igbos, people of a certain ethnic extraction who live and do business in Lagos State. Now, the Constitution of Nigeria makes it clear that any citizen is free to live in any part of Nigeria. That's what the Constitution says about freedom of movement. But Nigerians bring up this indigenous settler politics in different parts to create violence, to promote hate. And which was the point that has been made, both in the Afenifere statement and also by the governor of Lagos State, that look, nobody should be discriminated against on the basis of either their faith, religion, or ethnic extraction, Section 42. So to the extent that that attack on that spare parts market Kirikiri, Olodi Apapa, has an ethnic slant, makes it really, really worrisome. Because Lagos is very strategic. All of these incidents may happen here, but Lagos is so important that we hope, sincerely, that what happens in Lagos will not have implications for national stability or trigger reactions in other parts of the country. What if there are Yoruba traders, for example, in Onitsha, and then they get attacked, and then you have that kind of effect. So, and that's why this particular incident must be thoroughly investigated. That is why it is important that the president was one of the first persons to issue a statement. The governor of the state has also spoken up, as has been the case also with Mr. Peter Obi, and also with Jandon, the PDP gubernatorial candidate, and as we have seen, the candidate of the Labour Party for the gubernatorial elections in Lagos State. If you look at the timing of that attack was meant to generate tension, to intimidate ahead of the previously scheduled March 11 elections, to frighten innocent people, as was pointed out in the video. That these are innocent people. They are not politicians. They are not involved in politics. Their only crime is that, okay, there is a certain Yoruba man who bears a Chinedu, and he wants to be governor, and his mother is Igbo, his father is Yoruba. So why should innocent people suffer because of that?
I mean, I don't understand.
So it speaks again to the underdeveloped nature of Nigerian politics,
yes,
of the kind of problems that we have here. And that is why the National Orientation Agency, where is it in all of this? We keep saying that that agency is moribund. And on top of all this uncertainty that we've been commenting upon since morning, Nigeria wants to organize census, National Housing and Population Census, from March 19, I think, to April 23rd or so. Yesterday, there was the inauguration of a National Publicity Committee. And the INEC chairman was quoted as saying, we are going to use high-end technology. I immediately remembered INEC. It's convenient for officials to talk about technology that most of them know nothing about. So election is generating this level of tension.
Yes.
We have to nip it in the bud. The election on March 18 should not be about ethnicity. As Afenifere pointed out, it should be about ideas. It should be about who can provide leadership, not just in Lagos State, but all over the country.
Well, Dr. Badi, you made a point about Lagos being such a strategic point. Before we go to my last story, I wanted to touch on that story that happened today with the bus and the train colliding. I mean, how can that happen? I don't know if we have that video. I'd love your take on that story really quickly before
so the bus is actually a Lagos State staff bus. It's a BLT bus that was transporting civil servants, staff members of the Lagos State government, and a train crushed it. It is I don't know if I should call it a freak accident, because what the question you would ask is, what is a bus doing on a train track? However, as we spoke about earlier on, the reason we do have buses who cross train tracks, but there are safety precautions put in place to ensure that the two never have to meet. So in the past, what you would get is that you'd already have gotten an announcement, whether by bell or the closing of the train track, so that a bus or a vehicle does not cross this. Remember, it happened in Kaduna as well. It happened in Abuja, the Kaduna-Abuja rail, where a car was also stuck on the tracks and was hit, and we had loss of lives. Here, we've not been able to ascertain the number of lives that have been lost, but we've already seen people being carried out. So a very graphic picture of a stone over some. It is horrible. This shouldn't be happening in the place where we call the center of excellence, the commercial capital of Nigeria, the most populous city in Africa. You know, we come up with these lofty names. Accidents happen, very true, but they are avoidable incidents that should not happen in a city, cosmopolitan city like Lagos. It's very sad. I hope there'll be investigations done, and that if there's anyone who is culpable, you know, arrests will be made and they will face the full wrath of the law.
Yeah, reports that I'm receiving, they're already saying about 2 casualties, several injured. I mean, this is like a suicide mission.
Yes.
What was our boss doing at that particular hour? Isn't there a time frame for them to go around Rufai?
I mean, Oji, my heart goes out, my heart bleeds for people that lost their lives because they didn't think they were going to lose their lives. My heart bleeds for them. But I'm sorry to tell you this, Oji.
Don't say it.
It will happen again. You know why? It has happened before. And why did it happen again? Because we didn't learn. You know why we didn't learn? Because culture will eat strategy for breakfast. And we don't have a culture of doing things right. Look at elections ordinary now. Dr. But you talked about census just now. Somebody sent me a message and said, that census is another election waiting to happen, no? Because it's going to be massively politicized. And because we don't learn, that's who we are. So you see, if we start to have a behavioral personality change in this country, then it can be a whole lot better. You see, I think there should be a mental reset in this country. People keep shouting for a revolution. The only revolution we need is a mental revolution. And how does a mental revolution happen? Once people start to see justice is being done, their minds will start to change. The mental revolution we need in Nigeria is justice. The only revolution we need is justice. Once people see it, it happens. See, something happened many years ago. There was an accident in a place in Chicago. And a certain black man called Gareth Morgan sat down. And he said the reason for the accident was because people didn't coordinate each other. And he invented something called the traffic lights. A black man invented the traffic lights. And it reduced tremendously accidents. Since the last incident of train crossing, what did we learn? We didn't learn anything. What were the sensors on the train track? What were the crossing mechanisms? Who was signaling the train that a car was coming? What was the condition of the bus driver? What was the best possible approach? What was the syndication of the timing at which the train will pass with the time bus will pass? In other parts of the world, you know when a train will come. When I still go to England, I know a train comes around central London every 5 minutes. But in this regard, do we even know the times the train leave? Can I, as I speak on my phone, Google train times within the trains that move within Lagos? So when you don't have a societal synchronization, Oji, it will repeat itself. And like Dr. Abati used a very important word. He said this train accident is a metaphor for what Nigeria has become. And that is it.
Dr. Abati.
So it's a metaphor for what Nigeria has become. Ineptitude, incompetence, all the in.
Unfortunate. Dr. Abati, really quickly.
Well, I mean, I said all of that earlier on, but the thing to say about this is how Nigeria happens to people. When we use that phrase that Nigeria has happened to so person, it simply means a certain tragedy has befallen an individual or a community that should not ordinarily have happened. But that happens repeatedly, whether it's regard to kidnapping or violence or mindless killing or terrorism, simply because the state continues to fail in terms of its responsibility to the people, which in itself is a constitutional responsibility of the state. Section 14, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution. Somebody woke up in the morning, entered the staff bus to go to the office to serve the Lagos state government, and then somewhere along the way, a collision between a bus and a train. In parts of Europe, you will see the train and the bus, they will be going together with clockwork precision and regularity,
schedule,
and everything. No needless accident.
Absolutely.
But here in Nigeria, if you are not careful, when you leave home in the morning, you are not sure you will return in the evening.
Unacceptable.
This is just the tragic story of our lives. Now, that train line along that PWD in Ikeja, I've been told, is the responsibility not of the Lagos state government, but of the National Railway Corporation. The same National Railway Corporation that could not secure any of the train lines either between Abuja or Kaduna or between Abeokuta and Ibadan or any other part of the country, continues to fail. There should be a proper review of the operations of the railway corporation in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
It's not enough to just lay out the tracks. If you cannot provide the security that is required so that people don't just drop dead for no reason at all, then of course maybe we should shut down the railway corporation for a while until we're able to provide all the necessary details in terms of securing lives and property.
Well said, Dr.
So again, we commiserate with those families that have lost their loved ones. A lot of people have been turned into motherless children, orphans, widows, widowers, out of no fault of theirs.
Very sad.
Are you then surprised that we have in Nigeria what we call the jackpot phenomenon? People are running away.
You can't
Not necessarily because they cannot eat here, but because they are enveloped by danger.
You cannot be surprised. May their souls rest in peace. We'll take our final story with this video showing Nigeria's president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, meeting with the chairman of Heirs Holdings, Tony Elumelu, at his home in Lagos following Tinubu's victory at the polls.
Last man standing.
It's still standing.
It's still standing. Last man standing. Jay, how come two of you are wearing the same thing? Is that a uniform? Last man standing.
Congratulations.
But I come and introduce yourself.
Yes.
Bola Joko.
I am too glad. I'm okay. Hanging in there.
This is another supporter.
How are you?
Always argue.
Yeah. Okay.
You at the EIG center. Ask you a question there at the EIG.
Last man standing. I mean, this video was trending on social media all evening yesterday. When Tony Elumelu posted it saying that he met with the president-elect and they discussed how to empower the youth. What's your take?
Truth has to be told. Tempers are very high now.
Okay.
Words like last man standing, no. Let the court rule. He's president-elect, but let the court rule. And it's the last man standing phrase a lot of people are reacting to.
That's what it is.
And they have a reason to react. Why are they reacting? Because INEC did not do as he said it would do. And when you get the process of something wrong, then the thing becomes suspect. And it's not only us that we're talking about this. Even Chatham House, that President Yakub went to address, said they didn't get the process right. So we have a long legal battle, and sadly enough, it is the court that will truly determine who is the last man standing. It's a court battle, as ahead of us, that we are seeing play out.
Table shaker.
It is the court that will determine the last man standing. He's president-elect, but the court will determine who the last man standing is, which I'm not happy about, because it just throws away the right of the people to be able to vote. And that's why it is a shameful thing that this electoral law, using technology that we thought was going to reduce litigation, has now increased litigation because of the failures of INEC. Very sad. But a businessman meeting president-elect, no qualms with that. Businessmen will always align one way or the other. It's not emotions. They do it for the business.
Absolutely.
But it is the court in this regard that will determine who the last man standing is. And it's going to be a long drawn-out battle, and we can only wait for that.
All right. Dr. Abati, last man standing.
Well, the reference to last man standing is one of the nicknames that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu acquired in the course of his political career. So it is not new. Some people call him Jagaban, some people call him last man standing, some people call him BAT or BAT. Now, in 2003 election, when President Olusegun Obasanjo was seeking a second term, he tried to play the ethnic politics to get the government in the Southwest, belonging to the AC then, Action Congress then, to support him. So his strategies talked to all the governors. All the governors cooperated. But as it turned out, having told people to vote for Obasanjo in the presidential election, the people, not being so sophisticated, in the gubernatorial election, they voted again for the PDP. But Bola Ahmed Tinubu was a smarter guy who refused. He head on to Lagos, and he was the only one who survived out of all the PDP, all the AC governors in the Southwest. So he became known as the last man standing. So we don't know what exactly Tony Elumelu, popularly known as TOE, was referring to there.
Yeah, could be a
whether,
nickname, right?
whether that historical nickname or contemporary developments, but I don't want to second guess them. But you could see that in the interaction, there's a lot of familiarity, you know, between them. And the president-elect himself has been doing the equivalent of a victory lap. After visiting Buhari in Daura, he came to Lagos ahead of the previously March 11 scheduled gubernatorial elections. He went to see the Oba of Lagos. Okay, now he went to see Tony Elumelu, is very prominent in the business space. And, you know, it's power game. Once they say you are the president-elect, you quickly take ownership. And that's why we have been having major sightings of Bola Ahmed Tinubu here and there, you know, trying to claim the space. However, what is more important is what we were told they discussed, which was reported by Tony Elumelu himself, youth empowerment. Everybody knows that Tony Elumelu, you know, is very strong on the issue of youth empowerment through his Tony Elumelu Foundation, which has impacted on young people, entrepreneurs, you know, in all the countries of Africa. And he has provided support for over 10,000 young people who are into, you know, entrepreneurship. And it's a living program that continues to give back to society. Now, how does Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu come into the picture? If you look at his Restored Hope 84-page political manifesto for this election, it talks about young people. It talks about promoting digital inclusion, fintechs, empowering young people. And if, as Tony Elumelu reported, that was their major point of discussion, then of course it's an important subject, because if anybody wants to be president, yes, of course you will need to, you know, collaborate with people who are working on specific issues. Finally, it may well also be that it was just a friendly visit. After all, I'm sure there are neighbors in, you know, highbrow part of Lagos. He could have been passing in front of Tony Elumelu's house and say, let's check whether Tony is at home. But those other details we do not know.
Absolutely.
People have relationships, they have IOUs, they have friends in different places, you know, so beyond politics, what subsists is human relationship.
All right. Ayo.
Well, Oji, the first thing I noticed when I watched that video is that there were no ethnic conversations in that video.
Love it.
You can see that when it comes to interest aligning, it's the people who suffer the most are the ordinary Nigerians. Tony Elumelu is from a Delta state. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is from Lagos. From Lagos State. Tony Elumelu lives in Lagos State, pays, I'm sure, some of his taxes here. No one is having this conversation based on this video. People are hailing, they are coming together. So that's an interesting thing to note, that we shouldn't allow, especially for ordinary Nigerians who are fighting and killing themselves, at the end of the day, at the very top echelon, they are making deals and making alliances and not talking about ethnicity. I mean, to be fair on Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's never spoken along those lines, but his supporters, especially under his party, have been notorious for doing this, and so we must speak about that. And then the other part, of course, is that Tony Elumelu is a private citizen. He can choose to host whomever he wants to host in his home. Yes. He can choose to, be friendly and make alliances. That's to choose. But of course, it must be said that he does have admirers. He does have young people who are who perhaps feel very strongly about his support of the candidate. And again, going back to my last point on the fact that people are free to support, endorse, vote, for anyone that it's a democracy, and we must respect that.
Yeah, I love it. Well, you guys have been fantastic on What's Trending today. We had a long show today, really amazing. Well, thank you for your great contribution on What's Trending today. Well, that's all I have for you on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.